Hello and welcome to this video on the Music Thing workshop computer, which breaks out this 8HP digital utility and audio processing section from the workshop system and puts it into a Eurorack module. Here's what's to come in the video.
So here we have
1 octave of P.
Vocoder. Off switch.
This video is sponsored by Music Thing and Fonk. So as we mentioned at the start, this new workshop computer module is a Eurorack module that breaks off the computer section of the Music Thing workshop system. The workshop computer module offers a really low-priced, affordable kit for CV and audio processing or generating audio and CV to use inside a Eurorack system. The original inspiration for Tom of Music Thing was the early digital computing era in terms of when computers started to creep into music studios. It's often quirky, can be lo-fi, and Tom encourages seeing it as an experimental digital platform with plenty of CV and gate modulation options. But with a strong community around the workshop system, there's an impressive range of low-level CV utilities, exciting CV and audio generators, and a wide range of audio effects processors, some of which push into more classy hi-fi feeling sounds too. With the module, you get 3 programmed cards, which are the Reverb Plus, MIDI and Turing Machine cards from Music Thing, and 4 blank cards. The module connects to the computer via USB, and you can simply drag and drop to load a program onto a card. And there's also a new set of paid-for cards from RYK offering a bundle of pitch shifting delay, vocoder, pitch to voltage, and a tape-style recorder and looper. There's now lots of programs from the community that's emerged around the workshop system, so head to the links below to check all that out. Before we move on, let's take a quick look at the module. It's 8HP wide, and the top row offers 2 audio or CV inputs and 2 audio or CV outputs. You then have 2 specifically CV inputs and 2 more CV outputs, and there's 2 pulse inputs and 2 pulse outputs. We have the big knob, and then X and Y control on these mini pots, and a freeway switch, all of which control these programs. These cards that you drag and drop files onto or get one that's pre-programmed go into this slot and you simply load them by pressing the button next to that card slot. It's a simple interface and one that different programs make use of in quite different ways. So in this demo, I've essentially cherry-picked, and to be fair, it's a lot of cherries, from default cards and community program cards, and explored the RYK cards. And despite this long video, it's not a totally comprehensive look at everything the Workshop computer module can do. You can always check the website linked below for guides to each program to support the examples and lots of others that aren't in the video. So check out the timing links down in the description, join us for an exploration of modular computer goodies, and skip around as you like. Without further ado, let's dive in. So here we're exploring the Turing Machine card, and you actually get two quantized, highly configurable Turing machines with this card here on the computer. Now the Turing Machine was launched back in 2012, it's been super popular, I'm a big fan of all the versions of it and its kind of influence on modular as a whole, and I really like having two of them here. Lots of flexible musical options. And I'm using the two different outputs here with two oscillators into two low pass gates in stereo. You can see the whole patch here, other than a little bit of effects here on these orange cables in the background. Now muting one of the channels here. On the left, I have the left side outputs controlling a PWM pulse into this top low pass gate. Green cables here and the red cable I'm using as a modulation for the low pass gate level. And then muting that in my mix. On the right side, I have these blue outputs here driving plats that feeds the bottom low pass gate, and the yellow modulation out modulates that low pass gate. So we have two independent Turing machines quantized to the same scale, playing two oscillators into two low pass gates that are hard left and hard right in the mix. Now this is locked. You may be aware that a Turing machine can lock its random looping sequence. I'll leave this locked and just run through the controls. There is an internal clock, though you can use the pulse ins to clock this externally, and you tap the Z switch down like a tap tempo, so we could go really fast, or you could tap much slower. So rather than a clock on a knob or a pot there, you get tap tempo. And the way the Turing Machine works is that at noon on the big knob, this is just entirely random. It then locks all the way clockwise. It can also lock 7 o'clock on the clock face all the way counterclockwise. And it locks into a repeating sequence that's twice the length that you set. So you can lock a kind of double length or standard length sequence here. But the beauty isn't that it is random or locked. The beauty is that it can slip, it can occasionally let notes change. Let's bring in some modulation here. As I bring this back from all the way clockwise or counterclockwise. Largely the same sequence, but it's randomly developing and changing, and you can then lock that again. The X knob sets the length. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12 or 16 steps, indicated, as they say, with a slightly cryptic set of LED patterns here. So if I lock a pattern, let's go full length. Let's then bring this back to shorter step lengths. And you can hear those shorter loops. The Y knob operates as what they're calling a divide-apply, a divider and a multiplier of the clock just for those right-hand outputs. So as I start playing with the Y control here, notice that right side, which is right in the mix as well, is multiplying that clock faster. Or it can go slower. If I just mute the left side here, sliding down our clock, be that external or the tap tempo that we've set, or multiplying. Let's leave that in the middle for now. Unmute the other side. And you get two sets of settings here, which is really nice, and that's with the Z switch in the middle or up. And if we take a look at the web editor, you connect this card and module to the computer, and you can set the scale that you're working within. You can select the range of notes from that scale that you're working within. You can set the output voltage range, so each volt there, 1, 2, 3, 4, acting like a range of musical octaves. You can set the pulse output width, whether the pulse behavior is a clock or a pulse rhythm, and you can set whether that second sequence is actually -1 steps to get polymetric patterns evolving, or whether it follows the same step length. And you do this for the upward switch position and the middle position, and then you can save these settings onto the card. Really super handy and easy to configure. So just quickly going through the controls, the top outputs are modulation CV outs, the range of which you can set in that configurator. You get the pitch outputs on the CV outputs, which are the green and blue cables here. And you get pulse outputs for those sequences as well. So a modulator, a pitch and a pulse per side. And I've just panned these hard left and right to illustrate the two patterns running at the same time. You could just use one of them, you could use the other outputs, purely as kind of modulation sources. Pitch outputs don't have to be pitch, and that applies to anything in Eurorack. You can use a volt per octave pitch to modulate something, to change an envelope time, for example. Do play around if you're not using that pitch output, or say the second pitch output, as a secondary modulator. So here we're exploring the sheep card. The sheep is a card that was inspired by the landscape human-controlled tape transport that allows you to move tape heads around by turning a crank. And the idea was to play a sample and to do that fast enough of a moving tape head. And then Dune Desormeaux, who made the card, says they got carried away, playing with more than one sample at a time, and they got into granular territory. And then they were interested and inspired by Emily's work on clouds and beads. And there's two different versions, a lo-fi 8-bit 24 kHz sample rate version that processes a buffer of about 5 seconds of stereo audio. This is the first stereo card, stereo in, stereo out that I've seen. There may be more, but most of them are mono in. And there is a hi-fi version that then halves that buffer time, but gives you a higher bit depth and higher audio quality. They encourage feedback, which we'll do in a moment. But I wanted to take a stereo patch here, which if I just start muting things in the mixer and unmuting them. This is Platts with a 7-step sequence that's then also transposed by a slower sequence and some LFOs. And as that's mono, and I wanted to take advantage of a stereo in, I've patched that into a ping pong delay and some reverb to just give me a nice, what I'd consider, complete stereo voice. Now a copy of that is what's feeding the input here. So as I mute this, dry in the mix, and unmute the computer, we're playing around here with sheep. And it's always fully wet, you don't get a dry wet balance here, but you get grain speed, including reverse, off in the middle as it were. Turning X left, you control a delay, right it's the spread, and you have grain size. From moving up to low audio rate grains to something bigger, you can lock the buffer with that Z switch, leave it normal or even glitch. It's quite fun playing that switch. And then we have stereo in and out. You can scrub the grain position with the CV1, the speed mod on CV2, and you can trigger grains and gate grains on the pulse inputs as well. But as well as this nice multi-tape head granular lo-fi version in this case, You get some grain noise and a synced LFO and a couple of clock outs. Now I'll actually mute this and listen to this green trace here. It's going to largely present itself as clicks, but as I turn the grain size smaller, you can hear that down-sampled, what they're calling grain noise. And that would be a nice noise source or modulator. You can see there on the scope. It's working like a stepped random signal there. You get random pulses, which we can listen to, and you also get a pulse that's synced to that grain size. So back to the input. And then muting that, and let's just have a quick knob turn and play around with sheep. And these higher octave up shimmers work really beautifully. I'm thinking of feedback here. You could get those kind of shimmer reverb, shimmer echo pitch ups if you patch feedback. So if I unplug the right input here and I then patch that from my mix from the output back into the module, this will reprocess the module's output on that side. And if you had a mixer before this module, you could mix this feedback in and play around with feedback, feeding back granular processing into granular processing. So I think Sheep here, like many of the cards, would warrant its own video and a much kind of deeper, longer exploration with different input sources and some modulation. It's a really simple interface, but many of these cards are doing really interesting things.
So here we have
the 910 pitched delay card. And just to go through the in and outs first, this is my voice running through
the microphone.
That's my voice through a microphone into the module here, and I'm coming out to the second output, which is fully wet. We have two audio inputs that simply mix together. And the first audio output is a mix. The mix of the pitched delay effect is controlled when this switches up. So if I pitch this, say I pitch my voice up, so I sound like a little boy.
We then have the mix
when that switches up from fully dry
to fully wet. And if we go to
the second output,
the second output there is always fully wet. And just for kind of kicks and giggles,
let's just leave it on that fully wet output. This switch in the middle, as you may have guessed, is the pitch shift, and this comes
up one octave of
pitch, and it then goes down one octave too, so down.
This is my voice down an octave, and it's addictive.
It's really addictive. It's too much fun. But this is also a delay, where the Y sets the delay time. So if I turn this up, I'm going to have to go back to that dry wet output. That's really difficult otherwise. So this is the dry wet blend, switch up, pitch. Let's go up a little bit in pitch. Y is delay time, delay, and then feedback is on X. And with the pitch shift, and the feedback, you get those lovely rises or falls. Falls. Oosh. Oosh. Too much fun.
And just one more time. One more time. just one more time, I'll just play around quickly with my voice and maybe clicking my fingers.
So here I'm playing around with the 910 pitched delay just as a pitch shifter. Delay time and feedback are at their minimums, and I'm using the fully wet out and the dry wet blending mixed output here. And this is a sitar recording from Jonas, who is Blue Nautilus or Seaside Modular. He's a Patreon supporter who sent this audio in for use in videos. Thanks Jonas, this audio sounds great. I think it works really well here, pitched down an octave. The fully wet output is feeding some ambient effects, let's remove that. Pitch shift with the switch in the middle is down 1 octave. And here's that sound dry, taking that switch up to then control the dry wet mix. So on this mixed output here, let's take the mix fully wet. Go back to pitch shift. There's something really kind of evocative to me in this kind of lo-fi, wobbly, clearly processed sounding octave down. But we could say take that up an octave, take the mix back dry, or just with a little bit of that wet octave up in, but then using this to feed my wet effects. We've got just that wet sound, octave up, shimmering around in some delays and reverbs. And then the dry, though it's not dry because there's a little bit of pitch shift in it, in the mix as well. Let's try that with the octave down. Maybe create a mix that's like 50-50. I think it blends really nicely with that original source sitar recording. So one really nice thing with a pitch shifting delay kind of harmonizer effect is to kind of look back into the 80s and think of the producer tone of Visconti and his drum sound, something that you heard with say Brian Eno and David Bowie, and that is to use a pitch shifted delay with just a slight pitch shift and a fast delay time to create this lovely smushy kind of big 80s drum sound. Now I do have some other effects, I'll mute them. And I made this a little bit more extreme than you maybe want to. But going dry here, the switch is up, so this is the dry wet blend. I just have a drum break sample coming in. And then if I go fully wet, I'll go down to this being the pitch shift control again. You just want this kind of chorus flanging like effect. I found that pitching down kind of sounds better than up to me. But either would work, so just pitching down slightly off center. If I'm going to get about here, kind of 11 o'clock on a clock face, it's kind of a bit too broken apart sounding. Just to put the delay time up so you can hear it clearer. You can hear how much that's pitch shifting. Feedback's about halfway. So about here, let's go back up to the mix. Go from fully wet, fully dry, and we'll blend some back in. Maybe a little bit too much. Go back. And we're kind of in Tony Visconti drum sound territory there. If I bring up the delay time, you can hear each hit there, pitching down, giving you an idea of how much pitch shifting is happening per delay repeat. And as we have the fully wet output on output 2, muting that dry output, or rather the mixed output, that is this white cable, fully wet is going into a kind of ping-pong delayed small room, just to add to the kind of 80s drum sound thing we've got going on. If I blend that in, dry drums, pitch shifted or harmonized drums, that Visconti 80s drum thing, and then some added snappy reflective room. It's an effect I really like. But let's just switch over to an oscillator where we can really emphasize what's going on here. So just building on from that Visconti pitch shifted drum example, just to highlight how much actual pitch shifting we were doing, I thought we'd show it on a synth sound or an oscillator sound. This is a triangle, just out of a basic oscillator. Dry, we're coming out of the mix output here on the white cable, audio output 1. And as we bring the mix up, it's way more pitch shifted than you kind of might have realised. If you do that with, say, plats, big pitch shifted kind of mess that gave us that great drum sound. So all we have to do to tidy this up is go back to pitch shift with the switch in the middle and just bring that in a bit more, closer to no pitch shift. And you can get a really great flanger-like sound or chorus-like sound. So let's build up a patch and do that where we use this more like a chorus flanging modulation. So having just made that chorus flanger for plats in the previous patch, I got in my head this idea of kind of going super wide, almost room-like with our kind of chorus and short delays on this pitch delay card. So let's break down what's going on. So just so you can hear it, red trace, red cables, here's my basic oscillator into a low pass gate. And that's the saw wave. And coming out of the mix output, so both channels mix. And if I turn that down and turn up the blue cables here, this is the square wave coming in and the dry wet blend of this chorus pitch delay like effect. It's already moving quite nicely. There we have it, in this channel. If I just dry the mix up, there's our square wave. Now what's really nice is you can create these really thick effects by playing with delay time. I'm keeping it as short as it'll go here, feedback, and of course the pitch shift. Dialing that in as a kind of unison tuning, the closer they are, the shorter that kind of feeling of modulation will be. And if you just offset that pitch that bit more into these wider, more cyclical kind of beating unison effects. So going back to the mix setting, switch up. If we then do that on top of PWM, so an LFO to the pulse width here, this is dry. PWM gives a kind of unison effect, and then as we go wet, it's kind of uber lush. And as we then start to animate that in the low pass gate by patching an envelope into it, it sounds like lots of oscillators mixed together. Offsetting that against a different rhythm on my saw wave here. It's really fun to play around with, as I say, kind of wet, wide sounding, diffused, chorusy modulation effects, and just a straight up saw wave. Now if I come up an octave, and add a pitch sequence, it's a 5-step arpeggio to the oscillator. You can hear how the saw wave just sounds like a saw, but this pulse wave into the computer module, into a low pass gate. There's no reverb, this is just drying the mixer out of the low pass gate. So here's some more Patreon supporter audio, thanks to Nick Gilling for sending this over some time back for another video, but reusing it here. We have this lovely kind of Juno-esque polysynth sound. That's the input. We're listening to the mix output, and the wet output is purely to visualize on data. It's not going anywhere or doing anything. I'm bringing up my dry wet mix. We've got the pitched delay with some delay time and feedback this time, set to an octave up, creating these nice lo-fi kind of echo shimmers up into the higher frequencies on top of that sound. Now I could just use this like a pitch shifter, going fully wet there. I'm going to pitch, removing delay time and feedback. Let's go back to a 50-50 mix. You could just pitch shift slightly, get into really interesting dissonant, let's call them jazz chords. But let's go up to an octave again. Go back to the mix here. Set some delay and some feedback. So we get these growing cascades, and they just sit really nicely under those chords. So you can also do simpler things like MIDI to CV, but also CV to MIDI with the computer, here controlling this whole system. And although I haven't changed to a smaller case, if you imagine you had a small case of kind of exciting, interesting analog sound sources, but you couldn't sequence them or you didn't have any effects, you've probably got a computer you can use. And here I'm using Ableton Live to sequence. If I hit play here, I'm sending an arpeggiator through these channels, sending out pitch to a basic analog oscillator and splitting that to two filters, one of which has a PWM pulse wave and the other a saw wave in a more acidic filter. But as we get CV back to MIDI, as well as MIDI from the computer to CV, I'm sending some modulation and using these pots and knob here as a controller for my effects. If I mute the dry sound here and unmute the effects, this is that audio sent into Ableton Live through just a basic sound card I had lying around and back out to my system again. I have control for things like the low cut on my EQ. And if you're watching the overlay in the video edit, hopefully you can see that pot X there controls both frequency and resonance of a high pass filter or a low cut on the EQ there. And then using pot Y for the mix on my grain delay, which is down here. And if you look carefully at feedback, it's modulating. I'm actually sending in stepped random values from the modular system back to the feedback of the grain delay, which plays with that feedback there on the pitch shifting. And then the big knob. This is both the decay time and dry wet balance on the reverb at the end. So even though I've put these on top of the modular system here, I feel like these could just be right out of the way now, sending MIDI into the system here, playing my analog modules, and then controlling the multi-effects chain there. Could be sending more voltages back through these other inputs as MIDI and mapping them to things in the computer. It's really powerful two-way bit of communication. So here we have the pitch to voltage card from RYK, and just playing my guitar here. You can hear my guitar in the mix. I have a copy here. Let me mute that and let's just listen to the output here, output 2. And the first output is a constant oscillator that's tracking the pitch of the input. And that will just play indefinitely, but as well as a pitch tracker, you also get an envelope follower. And the second output there, envelope follows and controls the level internally. So as I play my guitar, which here by itself, a basic pentatonic scale. You can hear those volume changes and that we're getting tracking of volume and level married up to the input as well as the pitch. Now the large knob here controls the pitch offset. So if I just play a note on the guitar here, we can come up an octave, and you can come down an octave too. So playing my guitar and this together. We can kind of turn the guitar into a bass there. Now I'll mute the guitar in the mix. Let's just center that pitch again, and using the Z switch here, or Z switch, we can go from sine to square to saw, just cycling as I push that down, super saws, and an even wider super saw. It's quite funny playing super saws with my guitar, and it can be quite glitchy, as you can hear. Pitch trackers often are. Different instruments and different playing techniques will get different results, and you can select some slew for the pitch on the mini pot here, and this is a threshold for tracking that you can adjust to get better or worse if you want wonky glitchy tracking results suiting to your input. But we also get these pitches as outputs, a volt per octave output here. We get triggers outs and gate outs depending on crossing the thresholds for the pitch tracking, and you get the envelope follower out. So let's take a look at the envelope follower processing some beats. So I'm playing around here with the 355 pitch to voltage card, using it for envelope following and gate extraction to control the bass line. Just playing around with some chopped up, kind of randomly shifting jungle breaks. Now here are those breaks coming out of a sample player. Let's mute those in the mix, and then the filter is modulated by the envelope of the drums. It's that drum break coming into audio 1 here, and then CV output 2 is the envelope followed shape, that volume shape, amplitude curves of the drums. And they're being used to modulate the filter's cutoff. But as well as that, let's come up an octave. I'm using the pulses here, and it uses the pitch threshold for the detection for the pitch to voltage here to create a gate stream. And with a much higher threshold here, so less frequent gates coming out of pulse 1, this is coming off screen, triggering a random voltage that's getting quantized. So when the level is high enough to actually trigger a gate output, it triggers a random value that might then trigger a pitch change on the oscillator. And it's this oscillator, saw wave into the filter. Let's come back down. envelope back to filter cutoff. So we're driving pitch changes via the drum breaks. The envelope followed drum break is modulating the filter's cutoff. And as a reminder, there's those drum breaks in the mix and the thing that we're following. So inspired by the kind of general experimental nature of computer, I thought I'd run drums into this, let it try and extract pitch information from the drums, and then use that to modulate a filter. And it sounds pretty wild on its own. But removing it and just playing the drums first, have some fairly standard drum sequencing and samples, and then a div skip and trinity here, playing a whole range of random probability and Euclidean rhythm shifting sounds to add to the beat. Outside of the drums, I'm still using these breaks that we used in the last patch as the input to the computer here, but we're not hearing them or listening to them anywhere in the patch. Analysing those like we did in the last patch. In the last patch we used them for their envelope. This time we're using it to try and drive the oscillator, which if I patch that across here, sounds pretty intense. Of course there's not really any pitch information to extract from frantic drum breaks, but it's good fun. We could use the static oscillator and let those drums drive all sorts of pitch changes, and we could do that on different waves. But using the one where the envelope, the level of the drums changes the level of the oscillator, this is going to work well as a just kind of experimental depth changing audio rate modulation source. Now without it, here's the oscillator into the filter. Some random sequencing. Envelope to filter and VCA there. And then patching in the output from the computer here to modulate filter cutoff. It's sort of acidic, punchy, frantic, vocal almost at times. And then bringing the drums back in. Oh yeah. So on the same card as the 355 pitched voltage, we have the 350 vocoder. They're on that same card there from RYK, and I'm running my voice here again through the module. But as these are two different modes or firmwares, if you like, on the same card here, let me just show you how you go between them or check which one you're on. If you press load or reset here, that would load what's on the card, and hold down the Z or Z switch, it will actually say 355 or 350, and you can keep doing that to swap between them. So here we go.
350.
So this is 350 vocoder, and it's a classic 14-band vocoder that modulates the spectral content of a carrier signal with a modulator signal. My voice here will be the modulator. You're listening to it through the module here, not through my kind of video production system, if you like. And if I bring round the mix here, you can hear that there's an internal chord generator. Audio 1 is the modulator, my voice in this instance. Audio input 2 would be the carrier. If that's not patched, you get the chord generator built in. The big knob is the mix, and the yellow cable here is our output. That's the mix output, the modulated carrier by the modulator. And if we patch across here to the second output, this is an unprocessed carrier. And as we have that internal chord generator, as we have that internal chord generator, I realise I can't talk over that while I'm routing the mic through here. You just get the chords, which is handy just as a chord generator. So bringing in a little bit of the chord here, the X control is the pitch, so let's hear that moving around as I keep talking. I appreciate you doing all that saying. That's me moving the pitch of the internal chord generator. The Y knob is the chord selection, so I'll go fully wet again through different major and minor inversions, diminished and suspended chords. A different range of chords, a different range of chords, a different range of chords. And then we have different waveforms here with different saws, synced waves and sine wave stacks, just switching this Z or Z switch down. Here we go, 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 here we go. And then on the CV outputs, you get an envelope follower CV from CV out 1, and the pulse one you can actually use to freeze the carrier state, which you can do. You can do that on the chord here, switching up, and that switch just switches in a frozen carrier state. And you can do that with the pulse. You can use the CV inputs to influence the pitch and the chord selection. So let's play around, maybe build up some dub techno and a few examples with the 350 Vocoder. So when chatting to Steve at Fonk about the video, Fonk looking after Music Thing Modular and me working with them here, he mentioned that a 909 kick was a great impulse to excite a nice kind of struck vocoder chord for dub techno. And here we are doing just that. Let me take you through what's going on. So here's my percussion. It's made up of a couple of samples here and the Modbap Trinity. And I didn't actually settle on using a 909 kick as the impulse for the chords. Ended up going with the 909 tom. It just suited the tuning and the chord selection there. So this is still the 350 vocoder card. This tom that you're hearing is our modulator into audio input 1. The unpatched audio input 2 lets that internal chord generator come through. And as I bring that in, we could remove all of these effects. And there's that main output by itself. Now I am taking the unprocessed carrier, which is the chord generator in this case because I haven't patched one, through a filter here, and I'm mixing both the struck, excited chord and the filtered, just direct sound in this VCA here before I come into my effects. So I can fade up a droning chord and excite it in the vocoder and play around with that into some bit crushing and noise, reverb and delay. And other than that, it's a very simple patch. Let's build some percussion back up. I have an LFO to the filters cutoff here, which is just the Fonk oscillator. .909 tom, striking the internal chords in the vocoder, giving this great dub techno chord sound. So here we're vocoding an oscillator against a beat, or a beat against an oscillator. Just removing some parts of the mix here. This is the output of the vocoder. This very vocal, spectral, nasal-like sound by using a beat and a saw wave as the inputs. Now the saw wave here that is the carrier, the green cable and green trace. Just a sequenced saw wave straight from the oscillator with a copy in the mix so I can show you what it is. Then I have a beat, a mix of synthesis and 808 samples, and that's the input as the modulator. So the output of that vocoder again, oscillator against beats, vocoding, which is always good fun. But another nice thing here is having the envelope output. So if I take, say, a square wave from that same oscillator, just into a low pass gate with a trigger, so same oscillator that's feeding the saw into the vocoder, it's the square output here, I could use that envelope just to raise up that level in the low pass gate. You could patch it out to modulate anything, it's mainly where that kick drum's hitting. The louder bits of the beat there coming through into the envelope follower, giving us something to modulate elsewhere in the patch. And I love the sound of vocoders, so I could listen to that output for quite a long time. I already have been, but it works really well as a layer. So if we actually patch this against that low pass gate, and even bring the beat into the mix dry as well, I love how vocoders layer in to the rest of the patch. And the rest of the patch is simply what's going into the vocoder, or close enough. So here's the slow mod card from Div Mod Alt. I think I'm saying that right. And I just want to show the slow mod here as another example of CV, because there's a lot of audio use for the computer and the varying cards here in the video. And slow mod is 4 LFOs, all controlled via the main knob, from minute-long phases to low audio rates. These output on Audio 1 and 2 and CV 1 and 2, where Audio 1 is the fastest and CV 2 is the slowest. You get onboard VCAs that you can use the inputs to modulate them. And we get some cross modulation that's interesting too. If I turn these down, we'll get much simpler sine LFOs here. And this is controlling the whole patch, everything that you can see here. Using the green and blue outputs to modulate the tone of plats, which is just droning. The yellow output also modulates the tone of plats, but this goes into a low pass gate, where the red output and trace modulates its level. And I'm also using that green modulator on some splits here, not just for tone, but for panning. That's this sound if I mute the other one. And there's some effects in the background over the whole mix. The other voice is just the MCO. It's been sequenced with a 5-step sequence, and its output comes into another low pass gate and a filter here. I'm using a split of the red cable, which is the level of the drone, to modulate the tone of this channel in a filter. And then using the yellow output, which is the tonal modulator for the first one, to its level on the low pass gate. And I'm using the modulator, the blue output from the first one, as the pan for this voice. Now these controls offer some interesting cross modulation. The X control is the intensity of cross mod of all of the LFOs. So just setting this more extreme here. Hopefully you can see and hear we have LFOs that are ramping up and slowing down in frequency or rate. Let's leave a little bit of cross mod on. And the Y knob controls a crossfade between the outputs with its inverted neighbour. So the output on Audio 1, for example, would be just set to that when Y is all the way down, but it then also blends in and crossfades to an inverted version of 2. And that works down on the bottom as well, where you'd be crossfading between the inverted neighbour output. You can pause all of the LFOs with a pulse or switching up, which is really nice. You probably know that I like frozen LFOs and lots of them. And with pulse 2 or switching down, you randomise the phase of all the LFOs. That could be quite fun to step through rhythmically. Let's try that with a clock from this sequence to the second voice. So on my clock pulse, I'm randomly shifting to a different reset point in that phase of those LFOs, but they're cross-modulating, they're cross-faded between each other, and just drifting around this two-voice kind of droning patch. So this patch started out as an exploration of short reverb sounds. And short reverbs are great for putting things together in a mix, and they work really well here, but it turned into this whole huge kind of big modulated ambient space. So I'll pull out the modulation. We'll use this to go through what the Reverb Plus card, which is what we're using here, does. It's a combination of reverb and a load of other different utilities. And then we'll go through the sounds. So I won't go through every single little detail here, but as is just the card coming pre-configured, you can change a lot of this in the editor. The main knob here controls the mix, the wet-dry balance of the reverb. The X knob is the decay. And it can go suitably massive. This is a really interesting CV controlled hall. And then the Y knob there is a tone. Both inputs, we have a left input that's standard, the right input is actually inverted. They sum to mono and output a stereo reverb. That's what we're recording and listening to here. And then CV1 is added to the X knob, so CV over decay. CV2 is control over the main knob, the mix. And then we have on this switch a control where up full the inputs just pass as normal. In the middle there's actually a noise gate, so if you had a noisier input source, say some tapes or kind of crusty loops, you could be noise gating them, and in the down position it actually freezes the verb, cutting off that input and freezing the reverb buffer. We can control that with pulse input 1. Now the rest of the controls are then there for other various utilities, and by default pulse output 1 is just a short trigger at a fixed 120 BPM, so you get a clock. Pulse output 2 is a Bernoulli gate that toggles high and low with a low probability. CV out 1 is a stepped random sampling noise, that's via the clock. And we have a Turing Machine output on CV2, and you can control these via pulse input 2. So let's quickly explore the sounds, then we'll get into adding some modulation and into some other reverb examples. I really like these short, kind of like you've hid in the wardrobe type sounds, and they work really well with the input here, which is plats into a low pass gate, but there's a combination of triggered struck percussive notes and softer fading notes. I was playing around with that to explore how the reverb worked with both those kind of excited struck sounds and those softer little swells in between them. And the tone works really well for really dialing in a small little burst of energy, say just in the top end. It doesn't really sound like reverb, but just has this interesting kind of ring in the top end. Likewise, we could set that to go duller, emphasizing low frequencies, maybe a little more decay. Give a nice short room-like sound. Now it can also go huge if we just crank the decay up. So adding in some modulation, step by step here. I have an LED cable, which is the triangle there on the scope. It's just an oscillator in LFO mode to the mix. And then if I start using the second pulse input, I'll clock the internal Turing Machine and take the green stepped output, which is the Turing Machine stepped signal. Let's take that to decay. You can hear this reverb algorithm pulls around and modulates really nicely. You could attenuate your modulation, but just going in heavy-handed. Some really interesting effects. I then have a gate, is the blue trace there and cables, that's going to add into pulse input 1 to freeze when that signal is high. And this is just a random gate playing off of my sequencing. Playing around with the LFO speed to that mix. So here's the same patch, but changing the input from a Platts and low pass gate sound into a drum mix. We've got the same modulation and clocking it with the pulse input 2 here from my kick drum pattern, and that's creating these Turing Machine and stepped random voltages and modulating the decay via CV input 1. We're a little bit brighter on the tone, we're fully wet. If we take our LFO to say mix, we can have loads of fun. Here's the dry input. Let's go as short as we can, tone all the way down, emphasizing low end. Almost sounds like a tight kind of resonated delay-like sound in the low end. Brighten that up. And it's short enough, it feels really gated, it feels really kind of special effect-like rather than, say, a mix ambience or a big ambient tail hall-like sound. And I think it works really well with kind of electro breaks. It's got that zappy, fast delay-like sound. But let's go back to pulling this around. We'll freeze it with a gate pattern that's again playing off my kick drum. I love those just intense freezes. Using its own clocked by the kick drum's gate. Turing Machine voltages as we did before to decay. So here I just wanted to explore longer, more kind of ambient reverb effects. I'm clocking with the pulse input here and taking the Turing Machine style output to modulate rings, which is our input sound. But going fully wet again, let's just shorten that decay time and take a look at modulating decay with an LFO. Hopefully you can hear this lovely glossy sheen. It's more murky in terms of you don't have that definition in the notes. If I turn level up in an external attenuator, you can hear these just pull all over the place. It sounds really out of tune and quite extreme. It's an interesting abstract effect by itself though, but turning down the modulation, let's go a little bit longer, and I'll just raise a little bit of modulation. A rich chorus-like effect. Now one thing here with these big ambiences, and I'll remove that modulation. You can really get these to hang. Of course we can freeze it as we've already seen. If I just back off the level in my mixer, I'm going to crank the decay and pull the input. And it builds into this big kind of shoegaze-esque, clipped out, saturated reverb. With the input back in, and some modulation. There's some huge textures and glacial reverbs to work with. So with the Reverb Plus card being something kind of built for modulation and feedback, I thought we'd quickly play around with feedback. I have a dry sound, which is a simple saw wave into a simple low pass. This is dry. And if I take that wet, all those orange cables that are this saw wave come into input 1, and the second input there, this purple cable, is one of the outputs patched directly back, creating that feedback loop. And I can play around with feeding in that filtered saw. Playing around with tone and decay. Let's just add an LFO to that decay time. Ooh. That's really nice. Too much to explore, not enough time to do so. Let's move on. So here I'm playing around with the RYK B77 tape card. And they say that this card is a tape audio recorder for recording approximately 1.5 minutes of mono sound onto 2 separate tracks. Playback speed is variable, as is the mix between the tracks, and anything you record is actively there through those sessions. It's saved on the card, so as you power off and power on the case, you have your recordings. Just to run down the controls before we rebuild this patch, the main knob is playback speed. This goes up an octave and down an octave, where you have the centre being off and left of centre being playing in reverse. The X knob sets a start position for your resets, and you can reset there on the pulse input, as I am doing here. The Y control is the mix between A and B, where it's recording and where it's playing back. And you use the switch here up to record from the current position. It stops recording in the centre, and you can press down, long or short, to start and stop playback and reset. Audio input 1 is your A-B mix. I'm just recording onto the A side here, and the second output is kind of the opposite mix. So if you're all the way left here to record to track A, you'll have B on that output and A, and vice versa. CV1 gives you CV over playback speed, and CV2 controls the mix of those tracks. Pulse 1 re-triggers the playback from the start, and Pulse 2 allows for a gated playback from the start as well. So muting everything here, this is the sound that I have all patched up with red cables here. It's the kick drum from Platts being sequenced as a kind of abstract voice, going into some effects, and that's what's coming into audio input 1 here. I just have a copy separately in the mix. Now we can't erase anything here on the card. You can do that on startup by holding the switch down as it starts up, but we can just record straight over it. And I have a reset here to the start of the sequence, So now I'm going to be resetting into a position I can record and play back. Now muting the copy that's going into the mix and unmuting the tape here. Let's just re-record this. My audio is coming in, I have my reset. I'm just going to push the switch up to start recording. And I'll even remove that reset so I record a longer passage. And while I leave this recording, you'll notice there's some kind of fluttering, kind of rustling digital noise. The actual recording and playback doesn't feel low fidelity, but the noise, in the kind of spirit of the device to me, has got this kind of, lo-fi digital approach to tape recording, if you like. So that should be enough recorded. As I say, the reverb and the effects are on the input there. So if I stop recording, let's use my reset to bring this back to the start. Let's even remove that from the input there. You can hear this audio with that noise. You can play back faster. We can go through the center to play back in reverse. I really love these kind of gargling, pitch down noises that the module or card has imparted here. And those low rumbles of what was this at the input. Muting this. This is Platts again through these effects. And I think the sound sources mix really well together, the input and the pitch down reversed one. I'm strangely attracted to that noise that's been imparted on the audio. Let's see if we can do something creative with it. So becoming weirdly obsessive with background noise, amplifying it through about 5 different modules over and over again, and adding some distortion effects and some filtering, it feels like we've taken that background, what I found to be interesting noise character recording onto the tape here, and resetting this just to really zone in on that low level noise. Go back to the previous patch if you want to hear that relative to the input sound. It wasn't loud like this. With some resonant filtering, feels like we're waiting for some kind of sonar pings, hunting asteroids in space through some retro communication equipment. Here's the sound without the resonant filtering. And you can hear just broadband white noise that's from me amplifying this so much. Like that that rhythmic kind of digital rustling, chirping. I find really interesting, and from a sound design perspective, it kind of sounds, as I say, like strange, but also strained, straining kind of old communication devices. And there's textures to go over more quote-unquote kind of musical sounds, or just as all-out sound design by themselves. I find this stuff fascinating. So where I find personally that kind of tape-style sketchpad-like recorders work really well is in building up drones. I'm just going to use Platts here. You could use something way more interesting that is a bigger patch, filters, folders, effects, and actually capture those. But here I want to capture Platts into the module. We're currently listening to it in the mix outside of the module, tuned to the note B here because we're going to build up 2 layers and I want to tune these to a particular interval. So let me first just turn the switch up and record 90 seconds or so. I'll fast forward or skip ahead. You'll see me just turning knobs, capturing this droning kind of oscillator sound. So for about 2 minutes there, I kept turning the knobs, just dialing in this kind of shifting Platts drone. So what I'm going to do here is move this across to side B, bring this back into the mixer, and I'm going to tune up a fifth, which will give us an F sharp. And if I bring both things into the mixer here, this is Platts now tuned higher, and this is the recorded sound on the computer here, tuned to B. B and F sharp, giving a nice, perfect fifth interval there. So what I'll do is move across to side B, and then just do the same with this tuned up. So you have two sides that we can blend between, just manually turning those knobs again. And again, I'll cut this in the video, I'll fast forward, it's going to take about 2 minutes to record a full buffer of audio here. So what we should have now, just monitoring the output, is root, fifth, there on that mix. And as that stops, let's actually just patch in a reset. So with some repatching there, when that noise just hits, that's when our reset hits. Just to give some motion and a sense of time, I might use the clock that reset's coming from for some patching on top of this in a moment. But resetting this so we're at the point within this buffer where both are playing. Let's tune down an octave, and I'll use a tuner here, but you could do it by ear. But we have the tuner, so why not? That's now an octave lower. It was B2, it's now B1. Let's listen to that blend. Ooh, that's nice. This is still tuned an octave higher, so if I bring that into the mix, well, a fifth and an octave higher, let's go back to a B from Platts there. Lovely sound. We now have an octave lower and a fifth lower and Platts on top. I could sequence Platts, I could play different notes on Platts, play that over this droning recording that we have. So I'll play around here and I'll cut back in the video as I stumble on something interesting. So here's the patch that I landed on with 2 layers of Platts tuned to a root and a fifth, then shifting down an octave for the root and fifth, both recordings pitched down an octave, playing at half speed. And then I'm playing Platts, reusing that module for a melody on top. And we've still got that burst of noise just accenting when a reset in this recording happens. What a great way of using kind of like a basic tape recorder, digital sketchpad type thing. Let's remove the effects. And this is the output of the computer. Platts with some LFOs to simulate that kind of human motion we recorded into the computer with Platts, and a melody and some filtering. There's an envelope to that filter. And Platts on Platts on Platts. 2 recordings and 1 live. Bit of noise. Into some reverb and delay. You could just stack up a 3-note chord with 1 oscillator, where you record 1 note, then another, and then play another live. There's lots of creative ways that I think a little simple looper sketchpad tape-like thing is useful. This is just where I landed with this patch. So noise and unique noise sources are a wonderful thing, and I'm going to go through lots of different ways I like to use noise here, so it's going to be applicable to lots of different things, but we're exploring the Backyard Rain card from Brian Dorsey, and it is Backyard Rain, a recording of rain in Brian's backyard. I have a few layers going on here and some filtering. And this is the sound of Backyard Rain through the filter. And the big knob here morphs between much softer rain into, let's call it a medium rain. The big knob is really kind of weather intensity or rain intensity here. It's been way more full on. There's lots of smoothly overlapping loops to keep this just looping really smoothly and nicely. And playing with the sound of rain is always fun, at least for me. It's great for sound design. It's a really nice noise tool here to do other creative things with. You get some wonderful filtered organic field recording textures. But I'm also filtering this, and it's going to do interesting things, filtering your noise source, and this would apply if you had, say, analog pink, white, blue noise generators, say, in your system that isn't rain. That filter's really useful. If I patch this into some effects, some bit crushing and downsampling, you can use a resonant filter with noise sources. And the Backyard Rain here being a particularly interesting one. To really play around with these cold, crackling, digital, crunchy tones. And that works incredibly well as a layer on top of other things, but let's just keep going through the variety of things we have going on here. Noise is also a great exciter for things like a vocoder. So I have the workshop system here, propped up by a screwdriver, with the vocoder card that we've already seen or you will see later in the video, and I'm using the noise Backyard Rain to excite that vocoder against an internal chord generator. And having that filter, you can really play around with how that vocoder responds. Of course, the intensity of rain is so kind of like organic from the rain, for want of a better word, but then so robotic with that vocoder chord. So you can probably tell I'm quite passionate about noise and interesting noise sources like field recordings here. But these also make really good exciters for resonators, say like rings. So if we mute this sound again, here's rings. And you can hear that we get this lovely, almost like bowed string-like drone, which is quite different from the kind of default struck, pinged, plucked string that most of us do with rings a lot of the time. And again, having that filter on the noise before it goes to the input on rings. That lets us really play with how we're exciting the resonator that is rings. If I play different notes and use the filter here to fade them in and out, I think it's a really great sound. Again, having the filter post noise source, post Backyard Rain here is a really lovely thing for rings and other resonators. And finally, we can use a noise source just as a good old noise modulator. Here's a basic saw wave through a filter. And as I play some notes, an envelope will excite this filter. Now if I turn up the CV here, let's open up the filter. Again, that filtered backyard noise recording is going to come through and modulate the filter's cutoff. I love that kind of like descends into this grittiness. Here's that same note without the noise modulation or the rain modulation. And then with. So early on with the computer development, I had a call with Tom from Music Thing and Steve from Fonk, and they kind of told me that with the workshop system, and then therefore the computer module too, they told me that everyone was standing on the shoulders of Chris J in terms of the development and how capable the computer is. He's been very active at creating a huge range of cards, and one Christmas even created an advent calendar series with a new function for the computer each day. You can choose all of these on his website and you can download them, or you can now choose 2 of them and run them as a pair with the left and right side of the module. But you can also just download a single file that then has a mechanism and setup for choosing up to 576 combinations of all these functions. That's what I have here installed on the card and loaded in, and if you just hold down the reset or load button and then press the Z switch down, this gives you a vocal prompt and setup where you can set up a left and right side. So let's do that. Pressing the button, switching down.
Vocoder. Sample and hold.
It's just told me what's loaded. So moving that big knob to the left. To the left, we use the X pot to select that function.
Chorus. Vocoder. Off switch. Delay. You delay. You pitch. Purple strong. Rectifier. Sample and hold.
And as I move that to the right, we're selecting the right side,
Pitch crusher.
where that Y pot.
Chords. Chorus. Clock divider. Cross switch. TV mixer. Delay.
And then simply push that switch up to load that onto the card. Now I fancy a kind of Buchla style West Coast back end here, so let's select Wave Folder and Low Pass Gate and get into some patching. So with this kind of Chris J Uber card here, I've selected a Wave Folder on the left and a Low Pass Gate. Let's pull back this patch and let's explore the Wave Folder first. So my input here is a triangle just from this basic Fonk oscillator, green cables and green trace. We're outputting out of audio input 1, I've removed the modulation, and we're going to listen to this wave folder. Knob X for the wave folder here is the gain or timbre control. Now we also get a random voltage generator here, so if I just go back to the other bit saved setting there on my scope, the red trace here is being driven by an external clock from a sequencer, and the big knob controls the number of discrete steps. So let's patch that back in and modulate the folding. As I increase that big knob, the amount of discrete steps, potential values this random can be, increases. So just to reiterate here, this is a triangle input. We're listening to the folded output and clocking that side to give a discrete random value and using that patched into itself to modulate folding. Now coming across to the other side, so I'll unpatch my audio and come out of audio 2 here. Let's patch back into the input of channel 2. So all that sound you just heard and its modulation is now coming into the scope first, showing us that modulated wave folding. That modulated wave folding comes to the audio in of the second side, the low pass gate audio input, And we're listening to that low pass gate. If I remove modulation of fold, say, and play with the Y knob, this is the gate output control. But you actually get a 5-step sequence on this side too, so I'm using a different gate stream into Pulse 2 to generate this 5-step sequence. And it's a random 5-step sequence that changes every time you flash the card. So this is my 5-step sequence that I can drive through here. If I use that 5-step sequence to modulate itself at the low pass gates level, and then use the discrete random from the wavefolder side to modulate wavefolding, back to where we were, with a triangle input, wavefolding it, low pass gating it, creating 2 bits of random voltages, one of which is a 5-step sequence, and it turns the computer into a whole back end that takes, say, a basic oscillator like this Fonk one, and does something really exciting in not much HP. If you've got this far in the video, drop a card sync down in the comments. How would you make use of the Workshop computer module in your modular systems? Head to patreon.com/divkid to support what we do, gain access to discount codes, exclusive videos and documents, and to join the DivKid Discord community. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!